Good evening and welcome to our weekly book study here at the New Covenant House. We are studying this book, Christian Anarchism, by a fellow named Alexander Christianopoulos, and he wrote it as his doctoral thesis a little over 10 years ago or so. We are currently in chapter 4. We're actually ending chapter 4 tonight. It'll be the last installment in this little mini-series concerning how Christian anarchists respond to the state. And tonight we're going to be dealing with the revolutionary method of the Christian anarchists. So let's just dive right into it. First of all, Christian anarchists are not here to overthrow any governments, because that would be in the spirit of retaliation, violence, and murder, and we've said many times that this is not what we are about. There's a lot of misconceptions about what anarchism is, and there's also a lot of misconceptions about Christianity, so we don't want to. So this is something we're going to be saying over and over again, so that we can eventually stamp out that concept that Christian anarchists or anarchists in general are violent and promoting chaos. We're just not. So, what is our method? Our method is compassion, forgiveness, and patience. That may not sound like very revolutionary, but it is, at least according to Tolstoy. He's the one who's advocating this idea that this is the only truly revolutionary method. And we'll see in a little while, I think, that other methods are simply not revolutionary enough, because what they essentially do is replacing one method of violence with another. The revolutionary part in Christian anarchism is that we do the opposite. We replace it with compassion, forgiveness, and patience. And this is number one thing that Christian anarchists say, is that we are under no circumstances going to compromise on violence. And that is the difference between us and a lot of other revolutionary groups. And we try to make the point that there is a difference between us and so many other groups just because of that. For example, number one group with which we are frequently associated is socialists and communists. We sympathize with a lot of their ideas. They are good. But the one thing where we are different is that they are willing to adopt violence as a means to the end. And that is just not what we are about, because that when you adopt violence as a means, it becomes the end. And they are essentially using the state as the means to overthrow the state. So they're really not changing anything. They're just replacing one oppressor with another. So another group we want to distance ourselves from is anarchism itself. a lot of Christian anarchists hesitate to identify as anarchists because there's this connotation of chaos and violence. But we here at New Covenant House have decided that we are simply going to adopt the label and try to convince people what it's about. The same thing with evangelicalism. Evangelicals have earned a reputation of being judgmental, hypocrites, and we would try really hard not to be in that category, although we say that we are evangelicals in the sense that we really believe that Jesus is the way. The way he had explains this to us is the right way. And he really meant what he said. So the very foundation of Christian anarchism is the rejection of violence. So that's why we can not compromise on violence. There's a mention here about the zealots in Jesus' own time. When I posted one of the events here, recently somebody commented that we are the same as the zealots. And I had to respond that we are not. We are actually the opposite. And Jesus couldn't, like we said with the communists and socialists, he sympathized with their ideas, but not their method. Because they was fall in the category where they're simply not revolutionary enough. They just replace one archy with another. We are doing the opposite. Jesus did the opposite. He took up the cross and demonstrated the revolutionary potential of love and forgiveness. And another group is liberation theology, which is acknowledge that they are Marxist, and Marxist is essentially violent. They acknowledge that they will overthrow the bourgeoisie when we replace it with the dictatorship of the proletariat. So in other words, they are just as authoritarian as they were. So you cannot replace the state with another state and expect it to be what you want. What you want to do is replace the violence with love and forgiveness. Let's see. One of the writers has a very good explanation of that here. He says, the revolutionaries, a lot of those people are in South America, the liberation theology, and based on Marxism. They go to war, guerrilla war. They are willing to die for their cause, but we ask actually more than that. The heroism of the cross, not the sword. We cannot beat the strong man at his own game. We must attack his very foundations. We must render his presumed lordship over our lives impotent. You consider the cross a sign of defeat. We take it up as a witness against them. a witness of the revolutionary power of nonviolent resistance. It's not really clear who wrote that. Yeah, Myers said it that way. And other writers say something similar. So we have said many times that the cross, Jesus dying on the cross, is not a defeat, not a failure, but the epitome of the very epitome of the revolution. And that's what liberation theologists do not understand. So Ellul and Tolstoy say that they fully understand the insurrection, and they can't blame them for being revolutionary, but they also say that there are mitigating circumstances, and they are young, they naturally go astray, and they anyway only reproduce the methods which they have been taught by the state. So they're just repeating history over and over again. Revolutionary violence has an inherent tendency to backfire. So we saw, like in chapter 1, that the outcome of revolutionary change will be more violence and repression. Violent revolutionary means only lead to endless violence and counter-violence, bloodbath and recrimination. So that is kind of like the negative way that Christian anarchists respond. In other words, we reject things, we reject what other revolutionaries use as in their methods. Now we come to the positive, what we are actually going to do. So the chapter 4.5.2, Revolution by Example, starts with a little quote from Lenin. Nobody really knows that it's actually Lenin, but whoever did say it, he said that the oppressed multitudes had to be liberated. There's no doubt about that, and we do not dispute that either. But the methods that have been used in the past by the Bolsheviks and other Marxist founded revolutionaries just provoked further oppression. What's really needed is a new philosophy, a new way of life. Alternative can only come with a new philosophy, a new way of life, and that this alternative can only come about by example, not by force. The revolution of the past were simply not revolutionary enough. True revolution must come by different means: Christian witness and example. So this is the new thing that we are bringing to the table, by example. It is more like a top-down political engineering. It's a response to the ordinary top-down political engineering, and we renounce that. You can simply not make people good by law. It's not possible. We may know that our commitments to be good, we cannot see why it should be any other than good. And our power for good is magnified through the collective solidarities of good archies. So there's the concept of good power, good archy. We dream about the possibility that judiciously applied to the right spot, the power of even a small pebble from a weak sling will bring down Goliath of evil. In practice, however, it does not work that way. What we say, Christian Anarchists therefore believe that those who seek to govern or change society from above are deceiving themselves. So what Christian Anarchists say our revolution is from the bottom up, or better yet, from the inside out. Chelsicky says that the only option is to teach them by example. They might then of their own will choose to follow that example. So you cannot force anybody to be good. The only way you can expect people to be good is by setting a good example, and hopefully they will follow it. And of course, that's hard. Not easy. But that is the only way to change the hearts and minds of each person. So it's going to be a slow revolution. There is a price to pay in terms of efficacy. It is tempting to adopt this attitude of a top-down discipleship, because it's efficient, it's quick, you get your results really fast. But the method of Christian discipleship is the discipleship itself. So it doesn't work that way when you have somebody at the top saying, this is what you have to do. The one-man revolution, the answer is a one-man revolution within the heart. So in other words, you have to change the hearts and minds of people. And that is not easy. Jesus shows that it is precisely by moving examples of personal and non-antagonistic sacrifice that state violence can be gradually unmasked and defeated. So it's something that's going to happen over time, and you, with your example, you enlighten people and win them over to Christian non-resistance. And hopefully, by your example, you will inspire them to join the true Christian church. Tolstoy says that public opinion is moved by truth. So you're basing everything on the truth, deeds of truth, and people will be converted. Tolstoy places his hopes of revolution on the inspirational, indeed contagious quality of the Christian example. Gradual change of public conduct and consciousness spearheaded by courageous Christian anarchist witness. So, in the courageousness there is the courage to be different. So this is basically what the next few weeks is going to be about, this new anarchist revolution. In Chapter 5, this was the end of Chapter 4, and next week we're going to start delving more deeply into this revolution by example in Chapter 5, collective witness as the true church. I look forward to that, and thank you for coming.